All right, so hopefully everyone's settled in now. Okay, perfect. Hi, my name is Simon, and I'm the host for this month's Taste of Tuesday, where we'll be talking about Pasko. And Pasko is the Tagalog word for Christmas. And today we're going to be making a really popular dessert that we have for Christmas called Leche Flan. So y'all can say it when you're muted. I know we have a few folks on here right now, but try it out. It's Leche Flan.
Leche Flan.
Yes, exactly. And it comes from two words in Spanish, which is leche meaning milk and flan meaning custard. So we're making a Filipino style creme caramel. It comes from the Spanish, but we made it better. So we're just gonna get started on this. It's a very simple process that everyone can follow at home, and the ingredients are super accessible too. So first of all, we have around 1/3 of a cup of white sugar here, and we'll just put it directly on the pot, and we are gonna melt this till it's a very light brown on medium heat. Okay. And Noor is actually going to help me out a little bit with the process here. So I'll have Noor wash their hands, because I'll actually have them separate egg whites and egg yolks. Ooh. Yes. So to make the most sumptuous, voluptuous custard, you need to have majority yolks. And you see that I have a full dozen carton of eggs. We're going to use all of them. So we are going to be separating 10 eggs and using only the yolks and 2 whole eggs. And so I'll have you do that. So I'll have you do the egg yolks here and put the egg whites here. There you go.
Thank you.
And let me just tell you a little bit about Filipino Christmas while we're waiting for this, because all of this is quite a process. So the big thing about Filipino Christmas is that the 25th of December is actually not the big thing. The days that come. I'm just trying to observe them as, you know, they put the egg whites in the big bowl.
Stop.
Okay.
Filipino Christmas, okay?
Okay, fine. So what's really interesting about Filipino Christmas is that the 25th of December is actually not the biggest day for Christmas. In fact, it's actually the months before, the build up to it, that really gets people in the Philippines excited about Christmas. And yes, the reason why we have Christmas is because the Philippines is a majority Christian country. It's of the Christians in the Philippines, which comprise about 75% of Filipinos, 75 to 80% of Filipinos. A good 80% of those Christians are Roman Catholics, followed by, I'd say 10% Protestant and 10% other types of Christian, which includes the LDS Church, the Jehovah's Witness, the Iglesia ni Cristo, etc., etc., etc. And so Christianity, nevertheless, is still the Philippines' largest religion. And we find the celebration of, throw it in right away. And we find the celebration of the birth of Christ to be very important for us. And so you may think, oh my gosh, that's just like, you know, a day though. Well, I mean, in the traditional Christian calendars, Advent, and that's especially observed, especially the 10 days before Christmas, which is still in the Advent season. It would be tradition to go to church every single evening of those 10 days. And for the Catholic tradition, it is believed that there would be good fortune and good luck ahead of you if you go to all 10 evening masses on those 10 days before Christmas. But the celebrations and the festivities actually start way before that. Can anyone in the chat guess when it would start? There is an exact date as to when, you know, Christmas season triggers in the Philippines. And Sarah will just take track of the chat, and I just want y'all to guess, like, what is the date that Filipinos say, Christmas now? Do you have a guess?
I want to say the 15th of December.
Okay.
I'm going to say November 5th.
Okay.
November 5th?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say a week before Halloween.
A week before
Mm.
Halloween.
Okay, okay. Any other guesses?
It's probably not after Christmas, right?
Well,
Maybe.
no.
Nayara guessed the 20th of December.
20th of December is when it starts. Okay, so I'll tell you folks the answer after I show you this caramel. So this caramel is perfectly melted for me. It has a really nice amber color right here. And after we reach this stage, we're gonna put it in this. This is called a llanera. You could say it while you folks are muted. Llanera. Yeah. Yes. And for those who speak Spanish, in the Tagalog language, we pronounce the double L's as an LY instead of just a Y. Yes, it's
I was
very
about to
hot.
say, I can't believe you are just bare hand holding the pan while you are pouring molten sugar into it.
You know what? I was raised to be hard. So here, such luscious caramel. It's perfectly colored too. Oh, yes.
So this is just sugar that you heated up and then it turned into this caramel?
And turned into this caramel, exactly that. And remember folks, after you melt caramel on any pan, please soak it in water right away, because the caramel will stick. And no matter whether you have a non-stick pot or not, it will be a hassle to clean. All right, and I'll do that now.
Like that. Look at that. So beautiful.
Absolutely great. But the answer to when Christmas season really starts in the Philippines, September 1st.
Whoa. What? That is early.
September 1st. It's called the Burr months, right? So the beginning of the Burr month is when Christmas songs are played all around the malls in the Philippines, and that tradition. Okay, go ahead. And that tradition carried over here to Canada as well with the Filipino community. I remember precisely going to Seafood City, which is the huge Filipino supermarket, on September the 1st, 2021, and they started playing Christmas music. And it's very important to note because Christmas is really this long-awaited holiday in the Philippines. If it's not for the religiosity of it, it's a time where family comes together and family becomes reconciled. There have been many stories that have been released on Filipino television where they've told us the story of how, families have come together again after one person comes home for Christmas. And so the common question around this time in the Philippines would often be, "Saan ka magpapasko?" in the Tagalog language, which means, where are you going to spend Christmas? Because it's really that important for us to be together, to be part of family, whether it's chosen or birth family. And so it's really this long-awaited holiday, as I've said, even though we do have holidays in between, such as All Saints Day, which is on November the 1st, sorry, and we believe that like the souls of those who have passed away are here on earth, and so we visit them in the cemeteries, right? And that's just a whole other Taste of Tuesday or whatever event.
I love it.
Yeah, but yeah, September the 1st is when we really anticipate Christmas coming. And I did mention the 10 days before Christmas, right? So yes, going to mass, or for many Protestants like myself, we would go to worship service every day still, or at least most of those days. It might not be like a thing with many Filipino Catholics where we say that it's going to be a good omen if you go on all 10 days, but it's a good thing to go just so that we are ready for the season, I guess. But one of the most important masses or worship services is the night of the 24th. Okay, so Christmas evening, literally, is called the Misa De Gallo, or the Rooster Mass in Spanish and in Tagalog, where you go to church as late as humanly possible. And you await the coming of the Christ child until midnight, pretty much. And midnight is when you start eating, and when you start feasting, and when you start opening gifts. Yeah, so, but then like it's really interesting how like the days, the mornings and the afternoons of Christmas Eve, we're literally cooking. And we're getting everything ready. But yes, you still need enough energy to go to church by say 11 p.m. so that at midnight you can come back home and you can have your feast. Okay.
Why do you go to mass so late?
Because I think it relates to the anticipation of the Christ child coming. Yes. And the Christmas meal itself. So there's Misa De Gallo, which is like the evening mass, which is religious. And then there is a particular name for the Christmas meal, which is called Noche Buena. Noche Buena, which literally translates to good night, or a night that is good in Spanish and Tagalog. And Noche Buena is just a celebration of all of the delicious food. Things that you normally would not cook throughout the year. So what's really interesting in the Philippines, sorry, I stopped. What's really interesting in the Philippines is that pasta is expensive, tomato sauce is expensive. So spaghetti is cooked on special occasions in the Philippines. And that's one of the staples in the Noche Buena feast is Filipino style spaghetti, which people would think is odd, but I'm like, even for me, like my mom often cooks spaghetti now because it's so cheap here in Canada. And I'm like, ooh, this seems really interesting still because like, what's the celebration? What's there to have? But yeah, so there will be spaghetti, a lot of like tomato-based dishes because we don't cook those a lot. We would have a whole roasted pig if you can afford it, and that's called lechon, which is just it's a whole roasted pig, and just a lot of meat and a lot of richness, a lot of the good food pretty much is what we eat on that Noche Buena.
Jesse says Christian churches in Korea do the late night 24th services too.
See, there you go. I know Korean Christianity has that tendency too, to have the late night worship in general, but I think that's really something cool that the Filipino church and the Korean church share as well on Christmas. So let's get back to our Leche Flan. What I'm doing right now is I'm preparing our steamer contraption. And the steamer contraption that we're using right now in the center is pretty much a huge pot with a steamer like piece, which is this, and just water, like boiling water. And we're gonna let that boil, okay? And you may think, nothing is prepared yet, Simon. Why are you like boiling it so quickly? Because this is very easy. So with our, is this all of it?
Yeah, that's good.
Nice. You know what I'm gonna do just to add substance to it? I'm gonna try and add some of the broken pieces.
Oh, darn it, I tried my best.
Which is, no, you know what? There's a core teaching I feel around Christianity that's been lost by the ages, where Jesus actually just calls us to do our best. It doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as it's your best.
Thank you.
Which is A-okay. With that said, I'm gonna try and take out the broken yolk pieces from here so that we can have some substance to our eggs. There you go. That's good enough. If you like egg white omelets, go ahead.
You can also make meringue out of it.
And you can, but like there's the yolks though. In our situation, yeah, because there's the yolks here, you can't really do that. But anyways, here is our eggs. So once again, a reminder, this is 10 egg yolks, and 2 whole eggs. preferably extra large, okay? Preferably extra large. And what we're gonna add to it is 1 can of condensed milk. And you folks might ask, Simon, what's 1 can? All of the cans of condensed milk, whatever brand it is the same amount. No need to worry. No need to worry, folks. I'm not gonna use this spoon again. So what I'm gonna do is really try and get out all of the condensed milk creamy goodness. Because in the custard itself, folks, there will be no sugar. Because if you add additional sugar to your custard mix, it will actually create more bubbles in the custard, which will make your custard dry. And you do not want that at all. So we're gonna mix that as best we can, as best we can. And then I'm gonna get a can opener because we're gonna be opening this can of evaporated milk. 1 can as well. And same question, Simon, what can is like the right size? They're all the same size. So pour that in. And what will really bring out the sweetness of the custard, oddly enough, is salt. And it's a good thing to add salt to your desserts.
Is there like a specific measurement of salt or?
A good pinch. A good pinch.
I like that.
You just eyeballed it.
Yeah, I started cooking when I was young and I got the mom instinct around cooking. So I just do this and do that, especially with vanilla. And I have a heavy hand for this because just the smell of vanilla is just great with custards or really any baked good.
Are you particular with your vanilla?
No, because a lot of the vanilla sold in the Philippines is really just fake. Artificial vanilla extract. We can't really do anything about it really because of the what is called income inequality in the Philippines just being so big. But yeah, traditionally though, to add some fragrance to the custard, we would traditionally use the zest of a particular fruit called the dayap. And we don't have dayap here. We don't have dayap zest either. So people try and replace it with like lemon zest, but it just does not taste the same. So I would just use vanilla instead of the dayap extract. Okay. So the trick here is to not vigorously mix it. When you mix it, you have to be as gentle as possible so that you don't add more air bubbles to your flan. Yeah, bring it closer. So right now, this is as much bubbles as I can tolerate for this flan. You just really want to make sure that all of the milks are mixed in, that all of the vanilla and the salt is mixed in, and that there are no lines and traces of egg yolk present in your mix.
But it needs to be fully combined, correct?
It has to be fully combined. Yes.
Okay.
So it does take a lot of patience. And don't worry, I'm not touching the mix itself. So you see how the strain of it is not just egg whites, because you know how strainy egg whites can be. It can be like really floppy and stuff. Once it's smooth like this, you have incorporated it well. And yes, you could do like a really gentle mix like this. Perfect. This is ready to be placed in the molds.
I'll keep the camera ready.
Yeah, do keep the camera. And the water is boiling, and we are going to be risking the heat of our hands to try and place it under, but that's a-okay.
Do you want to put like a towel?
Ooh, that's a really good
I
idea.
can grab some.
That's a really good idea, actually. So now I have a strainer here. This is a tea strainer, but you could use any really fine strainer that's in your home. And I have a ladle here. Thank you. Just like put it there. It's fine. Is it going through?
Very slowly. Do you want me to grab another?
Maybe let's do another strainer.
Very
Not the drops. Oh, thank you.
I'm really sorry to make you repeat yourself, but what was it you said earlier about straining the eggs?
So I was using a tea strainer just now, but you could try and find any fine mesh strainer.
No, earlier. Oh, sorry. You may have, I think maybe what you were saying is that you were going to start straining the eggs.
Yes.
My bad.
Yeah, no worries. The reason why you strain the eggs is so that the texture of your custard is as fine as possible. What is it called? I'm kind of sort of failing right now, actually, because there are bubbles in the custard, but that's a-okay.
Jesus said to do your best.
Jesus said to do our best. And Christmas is also a time in the Philippines where you could be much more where people are drawn to be more charitable. I think it really is. I think it's really it really comes from how the income inequality once again is just so not there, like income equality, like there's a huge difference between rich and poor. But in any case, like even those who are poor and middle class find it within themselves to be more charitable during this time, which is always a good thing, I think.
Well, I mean, like, ironically enough, speaking of Christianity, isn't there, I don't think it was Jesus. I could be wrong. If it was Jesus, correct me. But isn't there that one really important story that all wealthy Christians just like to ignore whatever happened about how that poor woman who gave the few coins she had to spare was more generous than that rich man who could spend hundreds of gold?
It's a good thing you remember that story. That was a parable of Jesus, actually. So in the Bible, in the Christian scriptures, there is a story where Jesus was talking about how a lot of these religious people were not only rich, but they like to flaunt their wealth and they like to flaunt their religiosity. And so while they were at the temple gates, him and the disciples, because we believe in Christianity that Jesus had 12 disciples who followed and learned from his teachings. They kept seeing all of these people put in their huge amounts of cash, but he said that they didn't have their heart in it. And then there was this one widower, and widows were tradition in that society at that time were very disenfranchised and they had no source of income. And yet this widow still put down coins, like which was a huge chunk of what she was able to have at that time. And Jesus used that as an example of like, yes, she had the biggest heart in donating to the temple than any of these rich flaunty people ever did. Yeah. Which is a lesson to just be more compassionate and to be generous with your money. Yeah. Is the lesson there. Thank you for bringing that up, Tegan. That's one of my favorites.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I feel like a lot of like wealthier Christians, for the sake of their own ego, like to forget that particular parable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like the literal line is, it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven.
And that is an exact verse from the Bible as well. Do you have aluminum foil?
We do have aluminum foil.
If I can have, please.
Yes, of course.
And it is those stories. What is it called? So there's the cultural aspect that I was really expanding on, but I'm going to talk about the religious side of it too. So Christmas is just one day of is a day that culminates from an entire season called Advent. So Advent happens, I believe, 4 weeks before Christmas. And Advent is just a celebration of the things that Christ brings into the world is our belief. So each Sunday in Advent, there is a theme. So the first one is the Sunday of hope, because we believe that Christ brings hope in our world. And there's also a Sunday of love, a Sunday of peace, and a Sunday of joy. Because we believe in Christianity that Christ lived to bring those things to the people, and we ought to learn from that. And not just to learn from that, but to really embody it. So the Christian calling is not just to love people, but to really embody love. Because if we don't do that, then the faith that we hold would be useless. And the Christian scriptures are very explicit in that. And so, as everyone knows, Christianity is named after Christ, and Advent, it just makes sense for us as humans to celebrate the Advent season, the coming of the Christ. Even though it's not necessarily in the scriptures to celebrate this necessarily, but it just happens. And admittedly, it does have its origins in paganism. And in a way, it was kind of like a reclamation or such of the holiday. I don't know much on that. I think our Wiccan and pagan friends can definitely elaborate on that more. But yeah. So here's our foil. Let's tear this in half because this is huge. So we are gonna wrap it in foil, just so that we can protect it from the heat. We're really just benefiting from the steam of the water, right? Please do whatever is necessary to keep yourself safe while putting this down. Whether it's through tongs, or whatever you have. I am very comfortable with using my hands, but if you are not comfortable with using your hands, do not use your hands. And I'm trying to be very gentle with this. See, I tend to be really, okay, this is the hard part. I tend to be really harsh in my actions, not like harsh in a bad way. I tend to be really rash. Yeah, I tend to be really rash with my actions. So being gentle with things is something that I need to learn to do more of. Hallelujah. Make sure that it's not, if you ever use your steamer and you have two containers that fit the same way in your steamer basket, then really try and make sure that it fits. These aluminum molds that we have, the llaneras, we can actually bend them a bit so that it can fit. So the water is just hot right now, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring it back to a boil, and it's meant to be at a boil for the entirety of the process. And this process will actually take 45 minutes to an hour to cook. And that timer starts once the water comes to a boil. Yeah. So I tend to be very motherly in terms of other people's kitchens. I'm very lazy in my own kitchen, weirdly, but like for other people's kitchens and for other spaces, I need to clean as I cook. So that's what I'm doing now. I've just provided like a really huge summary of what we do for Christmas in the Philippines and the Philippine diaspora. Do folks have any questions?
I have a question about the recipe. If you don't have the aluminum tin, I guess like pan, what can you use instead?
Yeah, so you could use ramekins.
Okay.
So you could use ramekins and make mini leche flans. Same process, same timing. You just really have to make sure that it fits in your contraption. Many people have steamers, but with the Santa doesn't have a steamer, which is a-okay. So yeah, that's what you can do. Anyone else on our Zoom call as Moore fills this up with water?
I have a question. I'm not sure. I maybe I didn't hear if you already did, but did you like oil or butter the insides of the pan? How are you going to get the sugar and the flan out?
Well, the steam actually melts the sugar again after it crystallizes when you hit the pan.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So even like when it's cool enough to touch, you should still be able to what is it called? To run your knife on the sides of the custard and flip it over.
Okay, cool.
Preferably though, I'll tell you what I should have done though, is I should have added more caramel to the bottom of my pans because that would actually help it get out quick. But it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. So instead of adding a third cup of sugar, I would have done like, yeah, you would have done like a full cup of sugar. Yeah. So I'm just gonna cover this now and I'm gonna time it for an hour on my phone. Yeah. Do other folks have any other questions about Filipino Christmas or the recipe?
I have another question.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part about Christmas?
My favorite part about Christmas, is just actually just being together with friends and family. Family for like the Noche Buena and the Misa De Gallo. So you have to be like in my family, you have to be with family for that one. And what's really nice about Christmas is that you try not to quarrel on Christmas. You try not to fight. You try not to start beef with anyone on Christmas. We try to really embody the peacefulness that happened when Jesus came down in human flesh on that evening. So it's quite peaceful, but also with friends, there's a lot of Christmas parties that people book beforehand, and those are super fun. And Christmas parties are just like any other Filipino party. Lots of karaoke, there could be lots of alcohol, a lot of noise. But it's just super fun and it really is a good time. And the thing with Filipinos too, and how they celebrate things is like, we're not so much of a dancing, moving people. We're kind of like a singing, chill people, you know? So yeah, we do dance and there's a lot of Filipinos that are good at dancing. But also, we just really like to chill. I think it's because Filipinos work really hard. And so just like an opportunity to just rest and to just be with people that you really like is really nice. Yeah. Something that I can tell you about what I don't like about Christmas though is the fact that I have to cook a lot. I don't mind cooking, it's just a lot. So there's that. Yeah.
What's your favorite Christmas dish to cook?
What's my favorite which?
What's your favorite Christmas dish to cook?
Ooh, so with Christmas, there's no particular Christmas dish in the Philippines. I would say like, yeah, there's like special types of cheeses that come for Christmas, but it's not really as big as like just preparing a lot of food, like regular Filipino food. I guess if you were asked to ask me what my favorite thing was from Christmas over these past years, I would say it's this dish called Seasink. And Seasink is just a bunch of parts of meat that come specifically from the pig's head, but it also has like pig meat in it, and you chop that up and you add onions and chilies and mayonnaise. Well, not mayonnaise, sorry. Onions and chilies and like lime and soy sauce. Oh, it's just so good. Yeah. Another thing that I failed to mention actually when talking about Filipino Christmas is we do decorate our homes heavily. But we have a special type of decoration that we have for Christmas called the parol. And if you show them the lantern there, it kind of is like,
Oh my gosh.
it's kind of like, they would pretty much hang it up like this lantern over here. But imagine this lantern as a star. So just a papier mache star, or like a star made out of like plastic, and it has like lights inside. So paroles are meant to represent the star that was over the manger where Jesus was born, which told, people from all around that, there is a special person that was born here, a Messiah, someone to save us all. His name is Jesus. That's what I heard from like Christmas plays growing up. And so yeah, and the star is actually very important for the Christian tradition, is because after Jesus was born, there would be these people called the three kings that would come to the manger where Jesus was born, and they would offer gifts fit for a king, which is gold and frankincense and myrrh. Actually, it's not just a king, but a king that is bound to pass away. You don't really want to bring that upon people. But that was the gifts that were traditionally offered, which we believe is an allegory to the crucifixion of Jesus, like eventually. Yeah, but the three kings visited because they found Jesus to be a fulfillment of prophecy, someone that, came for all of people and all of mankind. Yeah. So that's the huge significance, and that's why we decorate our homes with things like star lanterns. So really imagine this as a star, huge ass star, actually. Yeah, that's what I forget.
I have a question about Jesus.
About Jesus?
Yes.
Yes.
So sorry, I'm trying to be aware of how to say this.
Mhm.
So
No worries.
one thing, at least from my experience in the United States, one thing that American churches are doing much better at is how Jesus, how should I say, is ethnically portrayed. He, for a long time, was in most American churches I visited during, like, the ceremonies, or when if you bought those little manger figurines, he was portrayed as white. So I guess what I want to ask is, in the Philippines, is Jesus's appearance different too?
No. For the most part, no. What is it called? So whatever the Spanish and the Americans brought over as their pictures and art and depictions of Christ is the one that has stuck. There are a few pastors and like artists that portray Jesus as like, the Palestinian man that he actually was, or even someone that looks like me and like other Filipinos, to represent that Jesus Christ came down for us to ultimately, emulate the Christ. So in a way, we see ourselves in Jesus. That's why a lot of the times, like there are some people that, portray Jesus as a Filipino person, or even a Palestinian person that's, more accurate. But no, the white Jesus has stuck in the Philippines.
Well, it's stuck in a lot of places.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I think, what is it called? There's a lot of talk right now as to whether people should still be doing all of this even after we've been freed from colonial powers that forced Christianity on us. I think that's a huge discussion right now that I kind of don't want to elaborate on. But I think for a lot of Filipinos who see that and how it kind of affects how they celebrate the holidays. And you would think that they would just completely ignore it, but Not really. I think they kind of treat it like the way people in the West do, which is like it's just a time for family, it's a time for a break. Yeah. So yeah. All right. So we just checked our Leche Flan a little past the 30-minute mark. So we checked it at 22 minutes and we had it for 60. Math is not mathing in my head. So 30-ish minutes has,
38.
yeah, 38 minutes has passed. And we did a check. And how we checked is that we used a knife to poke through the custard and it came out clean. That means it is done. The moment that happens, you need to turn it off. And what happens now is a process where this tries and cools down. So once again, I've said I am a very impatient person. So,
In the second drawer.
tongs? Perfect, thank you. So like I will find any and all ways to try and get something out quick. So we're actually going to be doing a little bit of an experiment. This is trying to take out flan with tongs, part 1. Okay, let's see. So I've just turned off the pot. So we're gonna now open it. We're gonna open the aluminum foil. Ah, beautiful. Looks absolutely glorious on the inside. And I know that it's a good batch because when you touch it, it's not like solid. It has a bounce. Look, for this one too. So it has your bounce, but it's still nice and firm. And I don't want to trigger anyone's trypophobia, so I'm just going to look at it myself, and I see that there's minimal holes, which is perfect. So we're going to let this cool a little bit before we get to slice it on the sides. But what I would do next time, and I encourage folks, if they want to try out the recipe to do this, is number 1, unfortunately, where we shopped for the condensed milk, there was only low fat. I encourage you to get the full fat. Because when you run through your knife, it's good that it's clean like this, but when it has like cream, it's not liquidy cream, but it's like the consistency of butter. So if it runs through your knife like that, that means it's going to be extra creamy, which is always a good thing with Leche Flan. So I'm just really playing around with this right now just to see the consistency of it, and how it runs through the knife. Fun fact to know, my mom loves to recycle many things, and that includes llaneras, which are the pans, but these are actually just one use. So not very environmentally friendly, but this is the traditional way, and I want it to be more authentic.
Where do you get a pan like that?
You get it at Asian supermarkets, specifically at Seafood City. Seafood City is where you would definitely find much more access to this. So it's cool enough for me to handle. So what I'm doing right now is, you saw me running my knife around the Leche Flan, and it should loosen up. And I'm just shaking it a little bit right now so that the caramel gets on the sides as well. Okay, onto this one. Gonna run it once again. Just try to be as clean with it as you can. And yes, before you ask, I can handle this heat that's coming out of it. It smells so good. And I'm just loosening it up a bit here. See, even like you see how the caramel oozed out when it was shaking? That's a good sign that there's gonna be lots and lots of caramel on the leche flan. It's gonna be delicious. And for plating purposes for us today, I am gonna flip it onto a plate, okay? And some of you may ask, can I flip the leche flan when it's cold? You could. It'll be a little harder for you, and you might need to warm up the bottom of your container just so that the caramel loosens a bit. But you can definitely have it cold. Like you could just pop these in the fridge and then have it for tomorrow, just as long as, again, your sides and your bottoms are warm. But I'm gonna flip this now just for y'all. All right, so plate on top here, and then we're just gonna give it a flip. Oh, all of the caramel is just oozing out of that right now. And you know, we loosened it up a bit. So we're gonna show you the final result. In 3, 2, 1.
Wow.
I actually wish that there was more caramel on this so that it would cover the top. And I wish I didn't poke it that hard. But this looks amazing. You could see all of the caramel that's just oozing out there. I know a lot of cooks that intentionally leave their custard on here for longer so that it can pick up the color. I have no patience. I'm gonna cut it up right now too, just for the F of it. And usually we would chop this, we would cut this into small cubes like this. Look at that. I'll give you a better piece right here. Ah, look at that beautiful custard. Like you could see the knife marks that stick onto the custard when I was cutting it. That means it's going to be nice and creamy, which is very much a good thing. And I actually like eating leche flan like lukewarm to cold, as I've said before, but let's try it now, even just for the flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Flavor's on point. You can really taste the vanilla. It's nice and sweet, but not too sweet. I did talk about the bubbles and I'm like, there's bubbles, but I'm not disturbed too much because when it cools down, you'll really get to taste the creaminess. And don't worry, I'm not touching the other pieces. I'm just touching with the own piece. Beautiful, beautiful. So that's how easy it is to make a leche flan. And I hope you get to try it at home too. See ya.